Interesting. Okay. What's good? It's Woog. We've got Moses Itauma, 12 wins and 0 losses, taking on Dillian Whyte, 31 wins and 3 losses. I was surprised when they made this fight. You've got the hot prospect. I mean, this guy's reputation right now for having beaten no top 10, no top 15 heavyweights. This guy's reputation has people saying, I want to see Alexander Usyk, the 2-time undefeated heavyweight champion, fight Moses Itauma. Like, this guy's reputation, because of the way he's been performing against these lesser to journeyman status mid-tier heavyweights, it's got his name skyrocketing in the boxing community. I was surprised that they made this because Dillian Whyte is at a stage of his career. He's like 37 years old now. He's a former title challenger. He finally got his title shot against Tyson Fury in 2022. Long road to get there. Frustrating road too. This guy has been in trouble for steroids like 3 different times. 2 times of which he's been pretty much exonerated, but he lost a chunk of his career and had to kind of build back, had some inactivity, came back out of shape. It's been a road for Dillian Whyte, and I really thought that he was on to, great things after he had this nice stretch after his first loss against Anthony Joshua. This was back in 2015 when they were both young fighters. That was a pretty action-packed fight too. If you haven't seen that, check out Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte. But after that stoppage loss at the hands of AJ, Dillian Whyte goes on a really good run. He beats David Allen, the journeyman who just beat and stopped Johnny Fisher, giving him his first loss in their rematch. Dillian Whyte then beat Derek Chisora in an excellent fight, split decision win. That was a great fight and a good win for Dillian Whyte. He beat Robert Helenius. He stopped Lucas Brown. I mean, in that fight, I remember watching that as it happened. Lucas Brown had never looked worse, and Dillian Whyte really had never looked better. Then he beats Joseph Parker in a super important, meaningful fight. You had the former title holder, Joseph Parker, who had only lost once via decision against Anthony Joshua, the first guy to take Anthony Joshua the distance. Joseph Parker, in his career, which is still being written, we hope he gets that title shot against Usyk, if Usyk sticks around and in fact does fight again. But if you look at Joseph Parker's career, the one that I'm sure he wishes he could get back was the loss to Dillian Whyte via decision. Close fight. Dillian Whyte had a good first half of the fight. Joseph Parker closed very strong though, had Dillian Whyte in all kinds of trouble in that final round, but Dillian Whyte dropped Joseph Parker twice, and I've always thought Joseph Parker was way too nice in that fight, and Dillian Whyte looked like he wanted it more, and he ends up winning a very close fight against Joseph Parker. I think that might be Dillian Whyte's best win. And then he rematches Derek Chisora, stops him in the 11th round. So that's twice that he's beaten Chisora, but then he gets in trouble with PEDs. And although he was later exonerated around the time of his Oscar Rivas fight, so then he returns kind of out of shape against Mariusz Vach, and then he fights Alexander Povetkin. This is a big opportunity. This could pretty much get him, because he's been mandatory by this point. He is Deontay Wilder's mandatory challenger, and he's just waiting and waiting, fighting this guy, fighting that guy. But he's not getting the title shot against Deontay Wilder, who then gets locked up in that trilogy against Tyson Fury, so Dillian Whyte has to wait even longer. But he fights Alexander Povetkin late in that 2020 COVID year, and he drops Povetkin twice before getting his lights put out by a beautiful uppercut. I thought that was the knockout of the year. It would either be that one or Gervonta Davis's knockout over Leo Santa Cruz. Those were both beautiful knockouts. But I had Povetkin's uppercut knockout over Dillian Whyte. Just put him to sleep. He's like laying under the rope. Beautiful knockout. Devastating loss for Dillian Whyte. Big setback, but he gets a rematch. And he stops Povetkin, who by this point is like 40 years old, but he stops him in the 4th round. So he gets to move on. He avenged that knockout loss. And he finally gets his title shot, not against Deontay Wilder, but against Tyson Fury. And Tyson Fury outboxes him early and then sets him up for a beautiful uppercut, knocks him out. That's twice in 3 fights at this point that Dillian Whyte's been knocked out with an uppercut. And yeah, you could say that it was a landed uppercut and then Tyson Fury kind of pushed him after that, but Dillian Whyte was badly hurt. He got up but was still wobbled. They stopped the fight. I didn't have a problem with it. But yeah, that was Dillian Whyte's title opportunity. Bad knockout loss to Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury at that point was looking brilliant. and people were having like all-timer discussions around Tyson Fury. This is before the 2 fights against Usyk. So on the comeback trail, Dillian Whyte has a close majority decision win against Jermaine Franklin. That fight really could have gone either way. Dillian Whyte didn't look great. Jermaine Franklin pretty much gave as good as he got. This is right before Jermaine Franklin goes the distance in a loss against Anthony Joshua. Dillian Whyte is then supposed to be Anthony Joshua's next opponent. So they're about to have this rematch 9 years after their first fight. And Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte 2 is canceled. They gave, Anthony Joshua a late replacement. I think Robert Helenius was the late replacement. But Dillian Whyte gets caught up with PEDs again. Later on, gets exonerated. You have to read up on, the technicalities on how he was exonerated, but he gets to resume his career. But by this point, he's out of the ring for like a year and a half. Significant time loss once again. He comes back against Christian Hammer, stops him in the 3rd round. Then he fights a lesser fighter, stops him in the 7th round. So this is another comeback opportunity for Dillian Whyte. And by this point, again, I thought he was gonna like hold out for a Anthony Joshua fight or some other name, maybe run it back with Joseph Parker if Parker wants to do that, but not against a young gun who still hasn't proven anything on the high level. Moses Itauma, that wasn't on my short list of possible Dillian Whyte opponents. For the 37-year-old Dillian Whyte, nuh-uh. You want high pay opportunities against maybe faded names, maybe Deontay Wilder versus Dillian Whyte. But Moses Itauma? Nah, I didn't see that coming. So, hats off to Dillian Whyte for wanting this young gun smoke, who, again, is kind of like a rising boogeyman, a rising threat in the division because of how he's performing against these journeyman, lesser tier, mid-tier heavyweights. Like Mariusz Vach has gone the distance against some pretty damn good fighters. He's fought a lot of really good fighters. Pretty durable guy overall. Moses Itauma stopped him in the 2nd round. Dempsey McKean made it to the 12th and final round against Filip Ergovic. This is when Ergovic was still undefeated. Moses Itauma knocks Dempsey McKean out in the 1st round. So these are guys who we've seen against other guys who go much deeper against guys that we are very familiar with. And then Moses Itauma is just cleaning these guys up in the first couple of rounds. It's pretty astounding. It's a little Edgar Berlanga-ish, but against slightly better opponents. Now, Itauma isn't like batting 100 when it comes to knockouts. He's gone the distance twice, but those were in 6-rounders like a couple of years ago, like his 2nd and 3rd fight or 3rd and 4th fight. He went the 6-round distance, which is actually the furthest he's gone. Like the longest he's gone in any fight is 6 rounds. So keep that in mind when he's fighting somebody the caliber and with the experience of Dillian Whyte. Moses Itauma is winning these fights in the first couple of rounds. He's not getting dragged deep. And in the fights that he's going the distance, it's not like he's getting like brutally tested or anything like that. This guy has basically been able to shine, and he's only 12 fights in his career, but he's been able to shine just giving you his offensive arsenal, right? He's a southpaw. He's got a nice reach, 79 inches. Dillian Whyte's got a pretty long reach himself, 78 inches. But Moses Itauma, he's not the tallest heavyweight. Look, I've seen him listed anywhere from 6'2.5" to 6'4.5", whether you agree with Wikipedia or BoxRec. That's a pretty big gap, 6'2.5" and 6'4.5". That's basically you're either Usyk's height or you're Daniel Dubois' height. So let me know if you have an accurate read on how tall Moses Itauma actually is. Let's just say he's about 6'3". Dillian Whyte's listed at 6'4", so he's got he supposedly, I've got to see these guys stand face to face, eye to eye, but Dillian Whyte supposedly has a slight height advantage. Itauma supposedly has a slight reach advantage. So these guys are pretty even, at least height and reach wise. Dillian Whyte's going to be a lot heavier than Moses Itauma. Itauma is kind of slim for a heavyweight. Like, he's not one of these 250 guys. I mean, he's not small. He's usually around like 235 to low 240s, right around there. Dillian Whyte, when he's out of shape, can top 250 easily. But Moses Itauma, again, he's a southpaw, and he's really good at setting that left hand up with a nice, stiff, quick jab to the body, like a hard jab to the body. He changes levels, boom, he just shoots that long jab out to the body, and then he's setting up. He's going low, and then he could 1-2. He could go low, high really quickly. So that 1-2, boom, boom, where he drops that overhand left, it comes like that. And if you are not ready for it, it's game over. That's why so many guys are getting stopped. So you first of all got to figure that out. If you don't have that resolved, this is going to be a quick fight. And although Dillian Whyte has experience. Now, if this one goes past like 4 or 5 rounds and Dillian Whyte has maybe won a round or more, then okay, maybe we got a fight at that point. But Dillian Whyte, if there is a glaring weakness, it's in recent years when he gets blasted, he gets dropped, sometimes badly. Again, he got knocked out with uppercuts by Alexander Povetkin and Tyson Fury. Also, Dillian Whyte, he's post-prime. Like, let's just be real. I don't think a younger Dillian Whyte would have fought an even fight with Jermaine Franklin, or maybe we're just not giving Jermaine Franklin enough credit. I mean, Dillian Whyte in this comeback trail does have 2 stoppage wins, but I'm pretty convinced that Dillian Whyte at this stage doesn't have the best chin, probably doesn't have the best durability, cardio. The chin really bothers me here because I feel like Moses Itauma will find a way to get that hard left hand in there, and this one might actually end quickly. Like, look, I want this to be that step up fight where Moses Itauma gets dragged into slightly deeper waters, gets tested a little bit. Like, he's earned what he's done so far. Obviously, he's the one in there doing it, but I do want to see him get pushed. I just want to see how he responds to different challenges. As much experience as Dillian Whyte has, something tells me that we might not get that one here. Something tells me that we might get oh damn, Moses Itauma just stopped Dillian Whyte viciously in like the 3rd round or something like that. I feel like we might get there. I mean, this guy was 2004's Prospect of the Year for a reason. And I think that this is just a bad matchup for Dillian Whyte, who I don't think has the hand speed right now to hang with a young Itauma who can move his feet pretty well. Look at how quickly he circles out. When somebody is kind of stepping in on him, like look how quickly he's able to just bring it back to the middle of the ring and then reset. He's got quick feet. He's got kind of quick reflexes. He rolls with shots pretty well. He's pretty evasive. He dips well. Again, see jab to the body with his right hand, and he's got quick hands. I see this being a potential recipe for disaster for Dillian Whyte. Again, I could be wrong. And if we see the middle rounds of this fight and we see Dillian Whyte winning multiple rounds, then okay, we've got something different in an Itauma fight. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I've actually got Moses Itauma just shocking Dillian Whyte, hurting him early and stopping him before the 4th round. I think that this is actually going to be I want to give Dillian Whyte a lot more credit and respect than that. So let's just say it goes into the 4th round, but not beyond that. I think Dillian Whyte is going to get hurt and stopped within 4 rounds here. Yeah, I think that this is going to be one of those. But let me know what you think about this. Again, I'm surprised that Dillian Whyte accepted this one, right? I thought that it might be a fight against a 3rd fight against Derek Chisora or a fight against Joe Joyce, like one of these veterans, but not against Moses Itauma. Let me know your thoughts on this one. But yeah, I've got Itauma stopping Dillian Whyte, the former title challenger who's got wins over Joseph Parker, multiple wins over Derek Chisora, and other fighters, other good fighters. I've got Itauma beating him within 4 rounds. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Who do you have winning? And if Itauma does get by Dillian Whyte, who would you like to see him in there with next? Like, is he going to get one of these veterans, like maybe a Andy Ruiz or a Jarrell Big Baby Miller? Daniel Dubois, maybe Dubois comes back against Moses Itauma. I don't know, but how do you see Itauma's career being handled going forward? Like, this is a very relevant name. Like, you go from fighting guys like Mariusz Vach to Dempsey McKean and Mike Balogun, who he also stopped in the 2nd round in his most recent fight, to fighting Dillian Whyte. That's a big jump in name and reputation. But I think given this context and given where Dillian Whyte is and where at least I think he is at this stage of his career, it might still be an appropriate next opponent for Moses Itauma. But let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.